Welcome to the Never Yield podcast. Today is Tuesday, February 17th. And on today's pod, we will recap the Hogs' big weekend in all the Razorback sports, basketball, Hogs, Diamond Hogs, both had good weekends. We'll also touch base on around the SEC and around the country. We got a solo pod tonight. And so we'll get right into it. Good weekend if you were an Arkansas Razorback fan this weekend. Started off with, obviously, the Diamond Hogs with their 3-game round-robin classic, if you will, in Arlington at the Texas Rangers ballpark. And then rolled right into a basketball game on Valentine's. And the Diamond Hogs just finished up today, so we'll get to it all today. We'll start with hoops because it's into the meat and potatoes of things, if you will. The Hoop Hogs with a nice 88-75 home win on a Saturday night in the Bud. Never really even that close. You know, it was a 13-point win, but honestly, it didn't even really feel like that, especially in the second half. I think the Hogs closed as a 7-point favorite, so they ended up almost doubling what Vegas thought it would be. So, on paper, 13 points against an Auburn team without their best player may not impress some national people, but Auburn's still obviously a very, very, solid team. They're kind of middle of the pack in the SEC right now. They're on that 9-10 seed line, kind of creeping towards the bubble a little bit. But no, a good win in front of a good crowd at the Bud. Got to watch the whole first half before I had my husbandly obligations on Valentine's night. Went to a nice dinner and caught the rest of it on our phone while we were eating dinner. So it's a good thing about having a wife that's also a Razorback fan is you're just as much invested as I am. So there was no hard feelings that we were both keeping track of the game on our phone. We actually had to leave for our reservation. We had like a 9:15 reservation. And we had to leave right after Darius Acuff decided to hit, 3 or 4 threes in 3 or 4 possessions, just pulling up, heat checking, doing your typical Darius Acuff stuff. Outscored him, scored 50 points in the second half. So, really good offensive explosion. I've always said, though, it's an easy game whenever your shots are falling. And for Darius Acuff, going 7 of 10 from 3 is insane efficient. From Darius, just same old story, but we got to keep giving him his flowers. I know we say the same stuff every pod about how awesome Darius Acuff is and how he just continues to impress, but it just never gets old. And I don't know what he's got to do to impress people on the national stage to the level that he deserves. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but Darius Acuff, 31 points on 10 of 15, 7 of 10 from 3. 7 assists, 1 turnover. It's just unbelievable what he's doing. You just don't ever see anything like what he's doing. And I don't say that lightly. Like, you don't see it. And it appears that just the more he plays, the more comfortable he's getting. He's really starting to understand the game. He's not just a scorer. He's starting to really figure out, how to be an all-around player and get his teammates incorporated. And his defense is still not great, but I feel like it's a little better than it has been. Some people are the NBA scouts, and I said that a long time ago. They're the NBA people on social media are saying that that's the one thing kind of holding him back a little bit, and is his defense, but it's slowly getting better. And a lot of that is because Cal changed up their defensive philosophy. They were doing a lot of switching early. They were switching on ball and off ball. And not only does that get confusing at times, but it creates a lot of mismatches. When your point guards are switching onto the bigs. And not only does it create mismatches, it creates laziness. Because you know that "Oh, well, we'll just switch this." "Oh, this pin down, we'll just switch it. I don't have to work real hard right here." It just kinda takes some of the, it just takes the grit out of it. It takes the strong mentality, the mano on mano, guard your yard mentality. It just kinda takes it out of it. Um yeah, I think obviously the scheme has helped not only Darius defensively, but this whole team has gotten better defensively. This whole team. I'm just gonna read off some stats here for you, and I love nothing more obviously than pissing off the Kentucky fans, but it's really not even a debate at this point. I'm not saying Darius Acuff's gonna be the best NBA player that Cal's ever coached. I'm not saying that. He's had NBA MVPs, multiple All-Stars. I'm not saying that. But as freshman point guards under John Calipari, Darius Acuff's averaging 21 and 6. We won't even get into the percentages. Derrick Rose averaged 15 and 4.7. He has better numbers than Derrick Rose did as a freshman. John Wall averaged 16.6 and 6.5. Darius is averaging 5 more points a game and point 0.2 less assists per game than John Wall, and he had a better field goal shooting percentage and a far better three-point field goal shooting percentage than John Wall did as a player at Kentucky. De'Aaron Fox averaged 16.7, 4.6 assists. Darius Acuff, once again, 21 points a game and 6.3 assists. His numbers are elite, not only just for this team, not only for this year. His numbers are elite, generational for all point guards, of freshman point guards especially, of any team, any class, anywhere in the nation. And he needs to quit getting slept on. He's earned to get his flowers, so I hope he starts getting them. But Saturday, as good as Darius was, it was Billy Richmond's world, and we were just living in it. Just Billy, Billy, Billy. Couldn't be happier for Billy. Billy's the guy that just does all the dirty work, does all the hustling, plays harder than everybody, guards the best player, gets the rebounds. Billy went out and got 25 points on 12 of 15 shooting. 25 for Billy Richmond. And the most impressive thing about it is Auburn knew that he was going to drive it all night. They knew he was going to drive it, and they couldn't do anything about it. So good on Billy. 38 minutes, 25 points. 3 rebounds, 4 assists. Good for Billy Richmond, man. I couldn't be happier for Billy. He's earned it. He's earned, all the accolades, all the hype he's getting. A lot of times those guys go, they just go under the radar a little bit. You just kind of take for granted what they bring because they don't score a ton of points. And I'm just really, really happy for Billy. We want Billy to keep rolling, but at the same time, we don't want him to keep getting 25 a night because then he may not come back next year. I think for most of the year, you've kind of felt like Billy was a pretty safe bet to come back and play his junior year at Arkansas and not try to enter the draft. But if he keeps on the trajectory he's on, that may not be a thing. He may try to test the waters. So Trevor Brazile put it together his 3rd or 4th nice game in a row, 11.7 rebounds. Nothing flashy, but I'm telling you, if you can sign up for 11, 12, 13 points and 8 rebounds, 7, 8 rebounds every game from Trevin, you do it. You sign up for that. He missed some open threes too. So you sign up for that every day of the week. Nick Pringle kind of went back to his old self a little bit. 2 points, 1 rebound in 21 minutes of play. Malik Thomas didn't have his best night, only 8 points, but he had 10 rebounds. How do you impact the game when your shot's not falling? How do you impact winning when the ball's not going through the hole for you, especially as a scorer? You go guard. You go get rebounds. You go create for your teammates. You bring energy. You do all those other things. And good for Malik Thomas, because I'm telling you right now, in Game 5 this year, if Malik Thomas was 3 and 9 shooting, he wasn't getting 10 rebounds. He was just kind of shutting it down and just going to keep trying to shoot. So good for Malik. he only shot 1 3-pointer, and he's the type of player that he needs to be shooting 5, 6 a game. I don't care if he's missed them all. Like, shooters shoot. So, hopefully he gets back to where he's shooting those high volume threes. I know this team has really been striving as paint touch team, driving to the rack, getting to the rim. That's where we're best, is when we're getting to the rim, getting downhill, throwing lobs. That's when the Hogs are the best. But you still want your guys like Malik Thomas getting his 3-point volume up. And they're running him off the 3-point line. I get it. They're trying to make him drive it. And I understand that. But I still think there's got to be a way for him to get, at least a handful of threes attempted every game. Carter Knox and DJ Wagner both came back. They played 6 minutes each. I think just getting them back in the groove a little bit, getting them back in their rhythm. DJ had a couple nice takes. Carter looked not quite like himself yet. Took a couple bad shots, trying to force the game a little bit. But, that comes with reps. And, when you've been out a while, that's not rare that happens. So, keep easing them back into the rotation, hopefully, making sure they're healthy. But yeah, great win for the Hoop Hogs. That cements them solely in second place in the SEC. Can't gripe about that. They're 9-3 in the league. I would assume that every single person that really follows basketball in this team, if you could have signed them up for 9-3 in the league through 12 games, most people would have said, "Where do I sign? Put it on the dotted line." And looking back, some of them are frustrating, and you wish you had some of them back, but still, at the same time, 9-3, sole possession of second place right now. Florida's at 10-2. Then you have Vandy, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, all at 8-4, right behind you, right on your tail. So you're definitely not out of the weeds. You got to keep winning, stacking up, dubs on top of dubs, and trying to cement that, that resume. Right now, Joe Lunardi has them as the 18th seed, I believe. The second best 5 seed, I believe, is what he has them as. And so you really want to get on that 4 seed line so you can get that protected seed and get that closer first round game, whether it's in OKC or at St. Louis, and so you can get that good home court advantage. And ideally, you just keep winning, you fight up to that 3 seed. That'd be perfect. If you could win 5 out of the next 6, which is going to be tough because this is the toughest part of your schedule. But if you could win 5 out of the next 6 and say, get to the finals of the SEC tournament, not even win it, I think you've locked yourself in that 4 seed, obviously. But you can maybe get in that 3 seed and get away from those 1s, so you don't have to see those 1s until the Elite 8. That way you don't have to worry about matching them in the Sweet 16. I know you're looking way down the line when you're talking about avoiding 1 seeds, especially March Madness, all the upsets in the first round. I get all that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it all play out. Couldn't be happier with where the Hogs at right now. It does look like they're playing their best basketball of the year. It really does. They only moved up 1 spot in the AP top 25 to number 20. That's kind of a catch-22 thing. Only Clemson was the only team in front of them that lost, so they only moved up 1 spot. But it's baffling to me that Vandy is still the head of the Hogs. I know they had a good week. They won at Auburn, beat Texas A&M at home. I know that's a good week. But man, the Hogs have a better SEC record than them. They beat them by 30 head-to-head. I mean, at some point, if they're that close, I think you put Arkansas ahead of them just based on those 2 things. I know the metrics love Vandy. The media darlings love Vandy. But yeah, I mean, if you want to keep moving up in the standings, you just got to keep stacking W's. The Hogs currently sit at 18 in the net. So obviously that's a really important ended up being a quad 2 win for the Hogs against Auburn. So, because they weren't in the top 30 at home. Uh, but yeah, just keep on winning. Try to jump up a couple seed lines there. Need some people in front of you to lose a little bit, and hopefully they get a favorable draw, get that double bye in the SEC tournament. You got to be a top 4 seed to get that double bye, and it just takes 1 or 2 losses, and you're right back jumbled up with all those teams that are right behind you in the standings at 8-4. So try to get this one, at Alabama coming up. Nate Oates has owned Arkansas since he got to Alabama. Obviously, most of that was against Muss. And I don't know the reason for that. Why? He's obviously done a really good job at Alabama. But it's go down and get a big road win. You know how Alabama plays. They don't guard a soul. They shoot the highest volume of threes in the country. It's going to be a really, really tough test. Joe Lunardi has Alabama as a 4 seed right now. Arkansas is a 5 seed. It's a top 25 matchup because Alabama's ranked 25th in the polls. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's a tough ask, but I feel like the style kind of plays into what the Hogs like to do. You're gonna need Alabama to not have their best shooting night. You're gonna need, you got to be really as solid defensively as you can because they're gonna just let it fly. You got to rebound the long rebounds. That's one thing about all the 3-point attempts is there's gonna be a lot of long rebounds. And if there's one thing, even during this 3 or 4 game stretch, that has killed the Hogs, it is offensive rebounds. Just killed them. Even when we beat LSU by 20, they had 17, 18 offensive rebounds. Auburn had 15 offensive rebounds Saturday night. So you've got to limit these guys to one shot. You got to limit them to one shot. And then arguably what I would think would be the 2 current favorites for SEC Player of the Year, I would think. Darius Acuff Jr. and LeBaron Fallon. LeBaron Fallon's averaging 21.3 points per game. Darius Acuff is averaging 21.2. A tenth of a point separates these guys. So, it's going to be something. It's going to be a high-level game. It's going to be a competitive game. I'm thinking Auburn will probably be favored, if I had to guess. I just hope the Hogs come out and realize that Alabama is going to start fast, and they're going to try to throw the first punch. And you can't dig that 15-point lead on the road. You can't do it. You've got to come out and start fast and throw that punch. So we'll see. This would be a really big win for the Hogs. Obviously, it would put a 2-game separator in between Arkansas and Alabama in the standings. I think Vanderbilt and Tennessee play really soon, so one of them will win, one of them will lose. The bottom line is you win the rest of your games, you win the league. So you control your own destiny. Because even though Florida's 1 game ahead of you, you still play Florida at Florida. But you win that game, you're tied with them, you got the head-to-head. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good game on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, ESPN, prime time. Can't wait. Cannot wait for that basketball game. Defensively, I'll just be very curious to see what the Hogs can do against that high flying offense. I mean, it's liable to be 100 to 102. Wouldn't surprise me at all if there was over 200 total points scored in that game. Now, a lot of times you think that's going to happen, and it's 80 to 84, but I'll be shocked if it's not a high-scoring game. So get your popcorn ready. Don't go to the bathroom because you got Arkansas, who's one of the best transition teams in the country. Alabama shoots the most threes. It's going to be a lot of excitement. I'm gonna rant for a minute about the lack of love that Darius Acuff is getting. My man, once again, wins SEC Freshman of the Week again. Sets an SEC record for most times winning SEC Freshman of the Week. Well deserved. No brainer. No brainer. They refuse to give him SEC Player of the Week. The SEC refuses to give Darius Acuff the SEC Player of the Week. And I want to know why. What more does the man have to do to win Player of the Week, besides win the most Freshman of the Weeks in the history of the SEC, to be a top 20 player on the Naismith or the Wooden Award watch list, to be second in the SEC in scoring by 0.1 points, but has far more assists, a better assist to turnover ratio, one of the best shooting percentages for a guard in the SEC. Where's the hate coming from? Where's the logic coming from? I want to have somebody from the SEC office on this podcast. I want them to explain it to me. 7 SEC Freshman of the Weeks, and you can't give him one Player of the Week? You're telling me there's not been 1 week where he's been the best player in the league? This week specifically, Darius Acuff averaged 29.5 points a game in the 2 games he played. 29.5. Dang near 30 points a game, 6 assists, and 2 rebounds. On 62% shooting from 2, 57% from 3. 57% shooting from 3. That's unheard of. But we give the award to Xavier Lee of Florida, who averaged 20 points per game, a third of the points less than what Darius Acuff averaged. 5 assists, less assists. The dude averaged 10 more points per game. He averaged more assists per game. His team went 2-0. He shot 57% from the three-point line. And you won't give him the damn award. Make it make sense. It doesn't. It does not make sense. I guess Dalen Swain was co-player of the week, I guess. I don't know. 25 points. 6 rebounds, 2 assists. 5 points less. When all else is about equal, however you want to look at it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Dude's averaging second most points in the SEC by 1/10 of a point, and you can't give him the award not one time. He's done more than deserved to win this award. So give the man his freaking flowers. Give the man his award. He's earned it. Rant over. Quickly, other news from around the league. Actually, we'll go from around the nation. Technically, Jerome Tang is fired at Kansas State. Why is that news to us, you ask? Jerome Tang was offered the Arkansas job when Cal got it. Before Cal fell in Hunter Yurchek's lap, Jerome Tang was rumored to be the favorite for the Arkansas job, and high sources in high places have said that he was offered that job. Did Hunter Yurchek get bailed out or what on that deal? I mean, he had the one good year at Kansas State where he took him to the Elite Eight. Good for him. That was a great run. It was a fun run. That was a fun team to watch he had that year. But he's now fired at Kansas State. And they're awful. Deservingly so. And not only is his product on his team bad, he's had some not so inspiring press conferences, you could say. Um, and I love a coach who kind of speaks his mind and isn't all politically correct in his press conferences. I love that coach who does that. But his kind of just they just seem they just seem flat. They seem stale. Throwing his players under the bus at a really high level. I mean, and that's kind of what Kansas State fired him for. They said that they're saying they fired him with cause, so they don't want to pay his buyout. Obviously, that's going to court. Jerome Tang's already hired, his attorneys, and they've released statements, and they're going to fight for that buyout. But um, it's just baffling to me that he was almost our head coach. Jerome Tang and Chris Jans, until old chicken man John Tyson pulled the rabbit out of his hat and saved the Arkansas Razorback program. Darius Acuff would be balling somewhere else if it wasn't for John Tyson. What a way the dominoes fall. But yeah, that's big news. So we'll be seeing a lot more coach firings as we're getting closer, towards the end of the year. Most schools will wait till the end, but some schools will not wait till the end. They won't. And so there will start being some dominoes fall. There will be some dominoes fall in the SEC this year, I think. I think LSU's probably going to make a change. I think South Carolina's probably going to make a change. Those are the first two that come to mind off the top of my head. So Oklahoma, Porter Moser, if they don't get hot quick, he may be out at Oklahoma. So, anyways, just going around the SEC real quick this week. South Carolina at Florida. That'll be a massacre for Florida. Georgia at Kentucky. Boy, that Georgia loss for the Hogs is not looking so good because they've been struggling. I expect Kentucky to get him at Rupp. LSU at Texas. Sean Miller, man. I've always liked Sean Miller. I know he's not a great person, but he can coach basketball, and he's got Texas rolling. I think they're 7-5 in the league now. Look like they're firmly in the tournament as of right now in his first year at Texas. Ole Miss at A&M. A&M look to get back on track there. Oklahoma at Tennessee. Vandy at Missouri. That's a sneaky game. Missouri's up and down, but when Missouri's playing well, they're pretty tough. So I'd like Missouri to sneak up on Vandy right there, possibly. And then Auburn at Mississippi State. I'll be curious to see if Auburn gets Keyshawn Hall back. Obviously, we talked about how he was suspended for disciplinary reasons. Credit to Stephen Pearl, man, for sticking to his guns and sticking to the nobody's bigger than the team. Everybody's going to be coachable. You're gonna abide by the rules. You're gonna buy into the culture. You're gonna do what's right. Sitting your star player down when you're sliding a little bit the last few games on the road with a chance for a quad one win against a team you already beat. You're firmly on the bubble of the NCAA tournament. I mean, that takes some manpower. So credit to Stephen Pearl for doing what's right, and trying to lay that foundation, that culture of doing it the coach's way. Nobody's bigger than the team. Nobody's bigger than the culture. So good for them. Let's bounce out. Let's bounce around now. Let's go. Let's talk a little bit of Diamond Hogs. I don't know how many people got to watch it. Got the Flow Sports subscription. If you got your Flow Sports subscription, make sure you cancel that thing. Don't get charged for 2 months of that now. But I got to watch. I got to watch all 2.5 games. I watched the first few innings of the Arkansas TCU game Saturday before we flipped it to the basketball game. Then I just kept up with it on my phone. But the Diamond Hogs go down to Arlington. They go 3-1. Could easily have been 4-0. Could easily have been 2-2. On Friday, Start off with Oklahoma State. They rule Oklahoma State 12-2 in 8 innings. It was really, really impressive. Gabe Gackle start off gave up 2 hits in the first inning, but got out of it, and then after that, it was just smooth sailing. Uh, Gackle and Cole Gibler both looked really, really good. A lot of people accuse me of overreacting and kind of not letting things play out, and there's probably some truth to that. But after one weekend, this appears to be your typical Nate Thompson offense, which I have not been a fan of Nate Thompson as the hitting coach for the Arkansas Razorbacks for a long time, years and years and years. The numbers tell you all you need to know. Pitching has got this team by for the longest. And then last year rolls around, and you have all these studs, these first-round draft picks, Golden Spikes winner, and they hit, a school record for most home runs, one of the best offenses in the country. And I'll give credit where it's due. I mean, bravo to those players and Nate Thompson. But after one weekend, this team looks awfully strikeout heavy and reaching for home runs all the time. And I hope it doesn't resort back to that. I truly don't. But there's a lot of home runs in that Oklahoma State game. Ryder Helfrich hit 2 home runs his first 2 at bats. I know Micah New, I'm just going off my head, hit 1 to end the game. There was a couple more than in there. So it was a good first win against a Big 12 team. TCU, number 10 at the time, TCU. Hogs get beat 5-4 against TCU. Hunter Dietz makes his kind of almost his first start of his college career, but he's been here a while. He's just been plagued with injuries. Hunter struggled to find the strike zone. Didn't have his command. Only got through 2 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. But look at that score, 5-4. So after that second inning, the Hogs did a great job. Jackson Kircher came in, gave up 1 earned in 1 inning. Transferred from Oklahoma, I believe. And once again, this is a game I didn't get to watch the second half of because I was treating my wife to a steak dinner on Valentine's night and watching the Hoop Hogs. But and then Tate McGuire comes in, goes 5 scoreless. Great stuff out of Tate McGuire. The Hogs had 6 hits. They out-hit TCU 6-4. I know they left several runners on base. And so it's hard to win when you consistently leave runners on base. But, baseball is baseball. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And Hogs got beat by another top 10 team 5-4 in a game that obviously you could say they left some runs out there, left some runners on base. The Texas Tech game on Sunday, that was one for the ages. Arkansas looked to be in full control there for a while. I think they were up 5-1 going into the 9th inning, I believe, 4-1 maybe. And once again, the bats just weren't quite getting there. Hogs had 9 hits in 11 innings. But yeah, the Hogs were up 4-1 going into the 9th, and they bring on Cooper Dossett to finish it off, who's had a pretty good fall and winter. Has been coaches have spoke highly of him, and he struggled with his command. Had 3 walks in 0.2 innings, and gave up a hit, and ended up allowing 4 earned runs. Texas Tech took the lead. I think they had one or 2 hits, I believe, going into the 9th the whole day. Colin Fisher looked unbelievable. 5 innings pitch, 8 strikeouts. Big tuna, they call him, the big lefty. Had some nasty breaking stuff going. And then, just Dossett just didn't have it. And he'll get another chance. He's got good stuff. He was running it up there 97, 98. And he just couldn't find it. And then Still Leaves comes in and gets out of a jam and finishes the game off. Pitches the 10th and 11th and extras. Only gave up 1 hit. in 2.1 innings, and got to the bottom of the ninth, down one. Cam Kojal hits a solo shot to tie it, and then Damian Ruiz, transfer from Lamar. We were talking about him last pod. He player of the year in that conference at Lamar, and batted ninth the first day. I know he hasn't been great in practice the last several weeks. That's why he was batting in the 9-hole. And some people are just gamers. He was just a gamer this weekend. He got on base 13 consecutive times, going from TCU to Texas Tech to Tarleton. 13 consecutive at-bats he got on base. Whether it was walking, getting hits, it doesn't matter. And so he got moved up to the leadoff spot, and that's all you want out of your leadoff guy, someone who can get on base. In this game against Texas Tech, he had 4 walks and 2 hits. Scored the game-winning run on a tag from third on a short fly ball to left field. So Damian Ruiz, he's looked the part so far. Hopefully he can keep it up. Ryder Helfrich, 2 home runs on opening day. He's going to be just fine. Micah New didn't have his best weekend, but it's going to take a little bit of adjustment. I know he's got good stuff. I know he's got a lot of power. I'm not concerned about him. Cam Kojal had a good week. They ended up starting 4 freshmen that game against Texas Tech, so that was kind of interesting to see Dave do that. But yeah, this team's got some potential. It doesn't quite have the firepower that last year's team had, and that's what I said last pod. But I think we'll sit back and watch and see. And then they beat Tarleton State 3-1 on Monday. Scored 3 runs in the first inning, and they didn't score after that. That's very concerning against a team. Tarleton State may be great. I know they were 3-0 coming into the game or whatever, but that's concerning that you scored 3 runs in the first inning, then you don't score anymore. You have 8 hits and you just can't get anybody around to home. But the pitching once again was unbelievable. Peyton Lee, true freshman, 4 1/3, 1 earned run. So, and then Ethan McIlvain, he's the Vandy transfer, 2 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2.2, and then true freshman Mark Brissy comes in for the save. So, Dave was frustrated. He said in his press conference, and you don't see this from Dave very much, but Dave was pretty frustrated. He said in his presser that these guys are either going to buy in or they're just going to hang out with me for a while. So they're going to be sitting in the dugout on the bench. And that was straight out of Dave Van Horn's mouth. So Dave's going to try to send a lesson. He's going to try to make a statement. And once again, you're going to do it. You're going to do it the way your coach should do it, or you're not going to play. And the real coaches, they'll hold to that, and they'll stick true to their guns. No players bigger than the program. And you're either going to do it their way or you're not. You're not going to do it at all. So good on Dave for sending a little message publicly to some of these guys that they better figure it out before he figures it out for them, if you will. So anyways, that about wraps it up. Winter Olympics is still going on. I've been watching some curling, watching a little bit of speed skating. I know the USA's 3rd in the medal count right now. Nothing. They're not going to win the medal count. So it's fun to watch, but it's just not the Summer Olympics. It's just not the Summer Olympics. Didn't watch any of the NBA All-Star game. Not interested at all. I saw they changed the format. I still didn't watch it. I saw some highlights of the dunk contest, and it looked putrid. People on Twitter were just talking about how bad the dunk contest was, and that's sad because the dunk contest used to be electric and fun, and it's just kind of lost its luster for whatever reason until they start getting some of the high flyers back in there. It's just not going to be the same. But yeah, right now we're just pretty firmly, in our little part of the world in Arkansas, man. We're just firmly into hog hoops, and baseball's starting up, and spring training has started for the pros. NBA's in their All-Star break right now, Winter Olympics. So let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll be glad to cover some stuff. Let me know if you think Darius Acup's getting snubbed. Am I the only one? Am I overreacting to this? Acuff not getting a SEC Player of the Week any? I mean, I think he's got as good a chance as anybody to win Player of the Year, but he hadn't won any Player of the Week, so how's he gonna win Player of the Year? How stupid will that look if they give him Player of the Year, but they didn't give him any Player of the Weeks? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, let me know. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell a friend. Uh, Turn on those notifications. That way, every Tuesday and Friday, you just get that notification on your phone when the pod drops on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you don't have to worry about remembering, and it just pops up on your phone. Listen to it on your way to work, while you're working out, while you're doing your yard work. Got a beautiful weather week this week. So just give us a chance. Tell your friends about us, and we will be back on Friday. Hopefully, Andrew will be back with us, and we will have some good news from hopefully a Hogs win at Tuscaloosa. So, anyways, that'll be it for the pod. Uh, as Andrew says, go Hogs, never yield. Woo pig.